Thank you, Ernie. I didn't know Ernie was going to be introducing me till I heard the introduction. So here we go. We've had many changes in Nuestra Familia since I joined the NHJ almost 30 years ago. We have experienced huge growth, and we've had turmoil within our industry. Within NHJ, I have forged bonds that are my closest relationships with people in the media industry. But first, I must thank my wife and daughter here, Lourdes and Brianna, for their patience with an impatient man constantly absorbed by news and who drags them to many events in which they must endure my speaking. Over here. I also want to thank Gary Pina of the Dallas Morning News for nominating me, a very gracious act by a person who has done a tremendous amount of work on the local level. To be included in the company of the past Hall of Fame members is humbling. I know many of them personally. Many are here. One should never get too old to admire heroes who have made an impact on their communities, like the people we have seen. There are many Latina heroes here tonight. Others couldn't be here. Some are well established. Some are well on their way to great things. And some of them are working in our student projects. We should not be too accomplished or too jaded to be inspired by great journalists. As Ernie said, I attended the University of Arizona, and we always watched the West Coast when I was growing up. This was pre-internet. We reread the LA Times in hard copy. And it was quite an event in 1984 when a team of Latino journalists, many journalists, but people I knew like Frank Del Olmo, Frank Sotomayor, George Ramos, and Julio Moran were part of this big team that won the Pulitzer Prize for Public Service for a 27-part series on Latinos in Southern California. This was historic at the time. I also was thrilled to hear her speak when Sonia Nazario of the LA Times also won the 2003 Pulitzer Prize for her series Enrique's Journey, which was made into a book, the story of a teenager from Honduras who came to the United States. Moving work that again put Latinos on the map. I get thrilled when I see people like Juan Gonzalez, who couldn't be here, unfortunately had to go home tonight, when he wrote books like Harvest of Empire and News for All People, a former president and also a Hall of Famer. And there are also people who are colleagues right now who we actively work with. Very dedicated people like Alfredo Carbajal and Mike Cano, who helped establish the Dallas Morning News' first Spanish language daily from scratch in 2003. These are events that made an impact. I also think heroes should be your peers as well. It's not just we old guys. There are people you're sitting next to tonight. Get inspired, get incited by the work of our current NHJ members, and you've seen a lot of that tonight. And I'll also say I get inspired when I see people like Alfredo Corchado, a good friend of mine of the Dallas Morning News Mexico City Bureau, here signing books Midnight in Mexico, which is about to be translated into Spanish. I like when I hear Ray Suarez speak about his project now, Latino Americans that are coming out on PBS, and his work, also a Hall of Famer. And as we heard in great detail at this conference, I'm very intrigued by the new Fusion Network. But it means that Hispanic-oriented content in English will be available to non-Latinos who have never watched Spanish-language television and don't understand us. Those role models have stepped out beyond the job, and they have extended themselves to do more than required. They took risks, and they are exceptional. Old school journalism is new school journalism. That means the underpinning of great journalism is telling stories with meaning and impact. Despite some popular lore, newspapers are not dying, nor is journalism under siege. People tell posters that they get their news from the internet. And where does the internet get its news? The biggest newsrooms with the biggest staffs, the most content, and the most web traffic, and most markets are newspapers. The economic model of media companies is in the throes of great change. We're all very aware. But with that, it brings opportunity. It also brings uncertainty. Reliable news and information in the sea of communications is more valuable than ever before. Everyone in this room feels the transformation of the media business. In this group, journalists as an NHJ, separates us from others in the media world who might not report credible, verified news. Journalists do work of substance. They do work that spurs reaction and positive changes. We have many tools and platforms that help us tell stories in new ways to reach more people. We must adapt and we must grow quickly. But don't get so absorbed in the new delivery techniques that you lose focus on the message. Content is our lifeblood, and that will sustain us. People are bombarded constantly by information in many forms. Remember why good journalism matters and how you can contribute to it. The best of our business have sacrificed and never shied away from hard work and long hours. These are the people in the Hall of Fame and others. But there are no shortcuts. Passion, intensity, and focus can be the great motor for success. Do substantial work. Do work that extends beyond advancing your individual career. Be able to answer to yourself, this is why I do what I do. Be ambitious and driven. Your journalism will accomplish more the more successful you are. Do well and all will prosper. Commit to creating a better understanding and context of the world around us. But it is not all about you. Don't confuse celebrity with substance. You have a great platform to reach people. You have a great opportunity to disprove myths and fill in the gaps of the emerging Latino narrative in America. NHJ Hall of Famers reached beyond themselves. Their journalism made a difference. They worked to mentor other professionals and groom new people to become journalists. Do work with a purpose that you can explain to sus abuelos, your tíos, your hijos, your grandparents, your uncles, your children. They don't care about awards, and they don't care how many Twitter followers you have. They don't care about the ratings of your last book. Be able to explain how what you do matters and how you are making our communities better. Mis abuelos came from the United States from Chihuahua, Mexico, to work in the copper mines before there was a border patrol. They never learned English. Journalism was something very far from their lives. But if they were alive today, I could explain to them why NHJ and its journalists make a difference. I could explain to them why we do what we do, and they would respect it. And I could also explain why we in NHJ continue to fight the fight despite various headwinds and challenges. Do work that matters, do work that makes us proud, do work that serves others, and be able to explain it to sus abuelos. Abrazos a todos, adelante.